Pardon me. So for me, it was COVID, and maybe it was for you at some point. You've had it too, but perhaps there's also been another overwhelming pressure at some point that made you stop writing. And when that happens, you have to get started again. Now, I think starting writing the very first time you ever do it, the first time in your life, it's actually really easy because you just have no idea how long anything takes. You're not really thinking beyond what you're writing today, which is probably a good attitude. But there you go. Restarting after you've stopped, when you're in the middle of a project, picking it up again, it's so hard. Everything seems like a mountain. And depending on the reasons you stopped, you can have been going through a pretty bad time too. I mean, for me, COVID, at its very best, it was extraordinarily boring, but at its worst, it was also debilitating and deeply depressing. You think you'll never get back to writing, and then actually you start thinking, well, maybe you weren't really that good at it beforehand. Don't go down that line. I have to restart. I have to. It's my job, and really, it's also me. Now that I've tested negative for COVID, now that I'm officially over, let's call it man COVID, I did whine a lot. Let me show you how I am working to get everything going again. Because I know you know what this feels like. I hope that seeing what I am doing will give you some ideas for when you are, if you have to be in this situation. And also, actually, I know that my telling you what I'm going to do, it's going to help me do it. Plus, there's this. Yeah, I'll get to this. Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, it's for writers like you and me who use and who write, obviously, on Macs and iPhones and iPads. Do subscribe because there's so much to talk about, and usually it's very practical, specific things. Sometimes, though, it's just occasionally easier to talk about writing than to write, isn't it? And for once, I think this time the best thing we can do together is a bit of both. A bit about practical writing stuff, a bit about talking. I've fallen off the wagon before, but this one's felt different. And I think it's taught me something that I haven't considered before. Which is this: you can't just get back on the wagon, or at least I can't. The first day, a few days ago now, that I felt able to move, I made a list of all the tangible things that I was late on, that I was worrying about. And I'm glad I did the list. Here's the list I did in Omni Outliner instantly, because somehow doing that list gave me a handle on where I was. It was wrong. I recognised that actually I had completely lost 2.5 days when I was writing that list. And really, I thought, well, I've been borderline delirious for another one before that. Now, that much further on, I think it was actually really a total of 2 weeks before I was functioning properly. But on the day that I did the list, I could see, for example, I had 122 unread emails, and that was a good thing to see. That was so many fewer than I expected. I mean, so many fewer, startlingly fewer. I'm beginning to think I create more emails, sending out, but yeah. Anyway, 122 emails, 2 texts. Is that all? 1 message? I can handle those. That's good. OmniFocus, my to-do app of choice, that's showing, well, if you add it all up, it's a total of 82 tasks overdue. That's 50 odd listed there with specific times that I missed, and another 36 I found in the OmniFocus inbox. With this and other to-do apps, if you're too busy to do anything, do you know this? You want to scribble it down, you want to get it down somewhere, but you just whack it in the inbox. You're gonna deal with it later. You're meant to deal with it later, except I didn't, or I probably didn't. Some of the things in my inbox, they're kind of created automatically as I'm doing other work, and I was fairly sure I'd completed some of that other work, so there was a decent chance that many of the 36 inbox items were done and I could get out of the way. Except counting that, the 50 odd, the ones that I'd already gone through and set dates and times for, unfortunately they definitely included around a dozen that were actually repeating tasks. Even when I thought I'd only lost a couple of days then, those tasks, they were tasks I should have done at least twice, maybe 3 times. And now here we are with them. Some of them are up to 10 days behind. Oh, that was getting miserable, wasn't that, to come outside? Now that I can, out in the house, fresh air, won't catch on. A couple of things. Notice that my getting to grips with my work has so far involved quite a lot of specifics. I mean, I haven't shown them to you, but you saw that there are specific tasks that had to be done at certain times and weren't, and there were specific emails that had to be replied to and weren't. Most of the things that I am trying to write, though, well, they may be very specific in my head, but they're not in anyone else's. There is a stage play that I suppose someone is waiting for, in that, well, I asked the producer if she'd have a read of it, and she said yes, but I mean, that's just so far away from a commission or any kind of deadline. And that, plus all of the really key things that I must write, I mean, must write for my own sake, well, it and all of them have one thing in common. I don't have to do them. I could ditch the lot. Nobody would care. Nobody would even notice, except me. So alongside the depressing part of the specifics and the tangibles, I also spent that briefly lucid morning the other day looking at the intangibles. And there were a lot of intangibles. Actually, in the worst moments of COVID for me, it was those intangibles that they were crippling. It turns out, for example, there's one really big writing project that means the world to me, but not only am I behind now because of COVID, I wasn't doing any good with it beforehand. You kind of see that now. That's just one line in my Omni Outliner working out of what to do document, a bit that says Operation Telebox. Look at that and look at all the rest on the list. These are short notes to me, they're not full things, so you see just there's so much to do, so much not being done, but that one actually is really key. But okay, if we're looking at the list, look a bit further down, steps. Those are notes to myself, or the starts of notes about what to do about all of this, or actually what to begin doing to get it back going. Having got the tangibles and the intangibles written down like this, they were all out of my head and they were there on the screen in Omni Outliner, and somehow that distance, that abstraction meant that I could look at them a bit more dispassionately. I could look at them properly, really, just looking at what they are and what they mean and what they entail, all without the kind of the filter of the guilty COVID depression. And it was thinking about this actually that led me to a new thought for me about how you can't just get back on the wagon. You can't go instantly back to full speed, full steam ahead, as if nothing has been happening. But it's okay. That's a big surprise to me thinking that, but I think it now. It is okay. Each thing that you do helps, and each thing you do steps you back up to where you need to be. Accepting that you can't do everything right away, right now, immediately, but accepting too that you can do this and it moves that and it makes this move a little further on. I know, for example, that I specifically lost 14 hours of script writing. I did keep other things going. I wrote some articles for a theatre. I kept going on things like reading a script every day, but I know for certain I lost specifically 14 hours of script writing, and they ain't coming back. But just by somehow facing up to everything tangible on my list and intangible in my head, I also know this. I am not going to lose a 15th hour because I'm still fretting about it all. I do still fret. I do still have things to figure out, such as which of those repeating tasks are just dead and gone now, and I may as well start them over again. And also this Operation Telebox project, what I was doing was not working, so code or not, I have to rethink it completely. I just don't have to rethink it completely today. I don't have to do all of these things right now. I can just make a start, and that does help. I think it's the facing up that does it, that getting stuff out of your head so that you can then use your head, use your mind to examine all of this stuff instead of pushing it away, fighting it. That's been key for me this time around. And actually telling you about it has been a huge help too. I feel kind of, well, just better that I've admitted a problem to you. I feel more confident actually about what I'm doing to start solving it. Thank you. But 58 Keys, well, it's meant to be more about the practicalities of writing and of a writing business like mine. So let me say then three specific and practical things, practical tools that have helped me at least start to climb back up into the writing I needed to do. First, you saw on the outliner. Okay, there are 58 Keys episodes all about that app, but you've seen it now, you've seen the benefit of it. It's for just dumping things down out of your head. Get anything out of your brain, look at it, move it around, delete things. That turns out to be pretty useful too, pretty important. Next, related actually, OmniFocus. It's an app made by the same company. I am so glad that I found the Omni Groups apps 10, 12 years ago, whenever it was. Still, I would offer that any to-do app is better than none in this case, especially when you have to treat your writing as being as much a part of your week as everything else you do. A to-do app, you need it. I would say that OmniFocus is by far, very far, the best to-do app that there is for the Mac, for the iPhone and the iPad, but your mileage may vary. And actually, I do have a kind of a soft spot for Things, partly because Things is the best name for an app about all the things you have to do. It's the best name ever, isn't it? And also, actually, the app itself, Things 3, it's a pleasure to use, but it isn't quite as powerful as OmniFocus, so what can you do? Last slightly odd one, I read a book, my own book, The Blank Screen, Productivity for Creative Writers. I mean, when I wrote it, it was less about getting back on the wagon, although there's plenty to do with that in there. It was more about making the wagon in the first place, making the wagon, keeping going. But I found actually it helped me, and that was so peculiar. It was like listening to myself from the before times, before COVID. I'm not exaggerating. I only had it for 2 weeks, but yeah. I don't normally like what I wrote yesterday, but this time, deliriously reading away, I got into my own book, and actually that was a help as too, just enjoying some of my own writing for once. And this helped too. This little thing, it kind of became a symbol of everything that I wasn't able to do during COVID. Is this relevant? I don't know, but I've got to tell you anyway. Follow. I got COVID because of the Commonwealth Games here in Birmingham, England. I have no interest, not a pixel of interest in any sport. But a friend, Maeve Clark, wrote the opening ceremony, the fantastic opening ceremony, and my wife, Angela, performed in it. I was beside myself with excitement over this. I went to the dress rehearsals. Yes, it was great. And the Birmingham Lego store launched this thing where performers and volunteers could go make little Lego figures of themselves, figurines of themselves in their various costumes and uniforms and outfits. I was due to go get one of Angela the day that she picked up COVID from closing ceremony rehearsals, and the day I picked up COVID from her. Couldn't go into the store. The games lasted 11 odd days or something, and I still just couldn't get to the store, couldn't go in. And I was so certain that I was going to fail to get this. But last night, we both went into the Lego store. My wife, Angela, is an action figure. It's fantastic, isn't it? Also very small, but okay. Listen, both action figure Angela and I hope you never have any occasion to stop writing. But if you do, I promise that as hard as it is to get back writing, it's worth the effort. All the time you've lost doesn't matter as long as you get back to it. Actually, no, even slightly less than that, as long as you start getting back to it. That's it for this, I think, slightly unusual 58 keys. I wanted to share all this with you because it was on my mind about writing and things, and I want to share it with you as soon as I could before I've really finished thinking all of it, because the previous 58 keys in the list saw me in full man COVID. Like, it's just, yeah, don't watch that. And I've had so many lovely messages from people who did watch that. So thank you for that. But all right, I'm not back to normal. You can still hear it in my voice. I'm still behind, but I'm getting there. And actually being a writer who uses and who writes on Macs and iPhones and iPads, it is helping me, as you've seen. Thank you very much for watching. Now take care of yourself. Write more, especially if you haven't been writing lately. And I'll see you soon.